am going to update you as to what is going on in the 3 US market indices. It is quite interesting. A couple of points that I want to make very, very clear. What we have seen really since, the market peak so far established during this breakout from the late period of October has been that of a very slight reversal. The reversal is, or at least I updated you leading into Wednesday's session, and since then, or at least from Wednesday and also during today's session, we've seen these markets continue to pull back. It has been a very minor, it has been a very sort of shallow pullback, but there are some interesting signals. First of all, I just want to point out, can anyone recognize a continuation pattern which seems to be under construction, on the S&P 500? A little bit of a question here. Obviously, I cannot hear you, and I'm going to count this down. 3, 2, 1. The answer to that is, if you look at it, this really seems to be that of a bull flag continuation pattern. We have seen 3 consecutive downward days, It has been very much so in a controlled manner, and as such, not only during today's session, but also on Wednesday, you can see that we are still continuing to hold and appearing to base off from that open window, which takes us back to the 14th and also the 15th of last week. That was Thursday and Friday of last week. So although when we go out to the sort of the weekly chart, you can see here on the S&P 500, as at the close on Thursday, we're down 16, almost 17 points at the moment. There is still a lot of bullish sentiment amongst and continuing to see that for price, or at least continued price appreciation into the future. So I just wanted to point out that to me, this looks like a bull flag continuation pattern. I'm not sure if we're going to see, the breakout come as at Friday tomorrow. It may be next week. But if we continue to linger around these lower wicks, and if we cannot see a definitive push below this open window, a close and a continuation, well, then the odds are in favor of higher prices, even though, we have seen the markets essentially peak on Tuesday. Now, again, we're pulling back on into these rising exponential moving averages. You can see that on the S&P 500. When I flick on over into the NASDAQ, I'll actually bring up the same sort of pattern. What we have done, first of all, is we have closed the window. That took place yesterday as at Wednesday. Today, again, we're inside that of yesterday's candlestick, and we are still holding above that open window. So you can see how the NASDAQ and also the S&P are working, in synchronicity to some extent with one another. You can see the pullback back into the rising 10 exponential moving average. This is after, of course, that high wave spinning top on Wednesday. So again, this simply just looks like a resting pattern. It's what we call the continuation pattern through the eyes of a technician here. And again, it's just simply a matter of patience at this particular time. As long as we hold up more specifically above the rising 20 exponential moving average on all 3 of these markets, good things are still in play, essentially. You can see here also on the Dow Jones Industrial Average, a little bit of a steeper correction or a pullback. I still believe this is going to play out in terms of a bull flag continuation. However, when I round back into the S&P 500, I just wanted to point this out to you because we've been speaking about this, at least in terms of the ADX reading, quite some time or for quite a number of sessions now. But if you go back sort of historically or retrospectively, and if you do this, this is a tremendously powerful exercise for anyone who can use the ADX or at least have it as a technical indicator, especially during that of a trending market after that of a breakout out of a range-bound state. So this is the range-bound state, you could call it. You could even call it that of an ascending triangle, as we have done in the past. But once you pierce the top of that range and you move into a trend above the exponential moving averages, pay attention to the ADX. When you look back historically and you register that of the past peaks, generally what happens is it alerts you to potentially very close to that of a short-term pause in the trend itself. So the trend is still to the upside, but have a look at this. The ADX is turned down right as that Tuesday's candle up here, and as such, it's still continuing to pull back. We're getting a reading now below 40. This is essentially allowing the trend itself to reset. So essentially, again, this is pulling over, so to speak, in your car. You're sort of refilling the gas tank before you can continue on the highway, or down the highway towards your destination. Our destination, by the way, on these markets are up here at 3,175 on the S&P 500, and on the NASDAQ, it's sitting up here at 8,900. These are measured moves, from the construction of some of these continuation signals, whether or not that is the ascending triangle, or in terms of the NASDAQ, this is what we call a symmetrical triangle. We've got the breakout, and this is now a measured move. So again, to go back into this, if I can bring up the right template once again, you can see the ADX is resetting. The CCI is still holding in there. Naturally, what's going to happen is that these oscillators are going to turn as well, and that's exactly what they're doing. However, we shouldn't really see these peers legitimately and hold below that of the 50 point on the RSI, which is the midway section. So again, we're in, if I can sort of just say it how it is right now, the markets themselves, they're sort of taking their foot or off the pedal of the car. We're pulling over, we're resetting, And that might be a very quick reset in terms of this bull flag structure and the breaking of that to continue to fresh new all-time highs. Otherwise, right, we could just get stuck moving sideways for as long as the ADX chooses to reset, upon which when it turns up, it will be the continuation of the trend to higher prices. Again, I'll show you this on the NASDAQ as well. Looking back historically, retrospectively, all of the times that the ADX has, tagged this area or has come very close to it, not so much there, but you can see all of these little tags, 1, 2, 3. What happens generally is that it correlates quite nicely with either pullbacks in the market or even deeper sort of corrections, whereby again, we're still essentially setting up a series of higher lows. So if we get a deeper correction, right, we're still looking for this market to hold up, certainly above that of the October, low. But really what I think would happen in this event was that we just come back and retest some of those past historical highs back in the period of June and also July that we established at that point in time, which did register all new all-time highs at that particular juncture. So again, things are looking good. It's important to remain patient, to remain disciplined, and as such, just allow this market to shake out. Allow, of course, some of these weak bulls to capitulate a little bit if we do see a little bit of downside action, but do not lose sight of the longer-term picture. This market is still rising. In fact, the LEIs, just to update you, were released today. I will recap them in Saturday's Pivot Point Pro analysis class. Again, if you're not in that analysis class, I'd encourage you to do so. Just to repeat myself, the LEIs have come out. They're released at 10 a.m. today, and things are still looking good. Although, of course, the economic backdrop continues to deteriorate, there is still adequate sort of gas in the gas tank, so to speak, on a macro time frame. Not talking about the intermediate sort of pulling over and filling up, but on the macro time frame, there is still adequate gas in that tank for these markets to continue their rally very well into 2020 as well. So that's going to do us as at Thursday. Again, if you have any questions, email me. Otherwise, jump into that analysis class this coming Saturday. We're going to break this down in great detail. All the best, everyone. James signing off on behalf of Pivot Point Trading. Farewell.